Well, welcome back. Today, I want to show you a little bit about reconstructing Army and Army Air Force research. And we are going to look at Army morning reports. Now, these Army morning reports were created for the Army and the Army Air Force during World War II. Army Air Force was under the jurisdiction of the Army. Now, whether or not you have a service file for your veteran, the Army Morning Report is a vital record that you need to help you reconstruct service, understand all of the different footsteps, and maybe fill in some gaps, especially if the service file burned. Now, the Army Morning Reports for World War II are online through December 1944. And by the way, I'm recording this in April of 2026. So if you're watching this later, it's possible the 1945 reports are online. But for now, if you need 1945 reports, I do take clients and I can help you get those and other military records to help your process. If you don't know me, before we dive into the morning reports, I'm Jennifer Hollick with the World War II Research and Writing Center, and I developed the two-part strategy 15 years ago to research any veteran from World War I to Vietnam, even if the service file burned. If you go to the comments, you can take a look at my online store where I'm offering a lot of small group coaching sessions specific to branch military research right now. I have some webinars, pre-recorded things, and I offer quite a lot of resources and workbooks with every program I offer. You're not going to find anything else like this anywhere in the country. All right. So before we go look at some Army morning reports, they are on NARA catalog, as I said, through December 1944 right now. There is a trick to searching the NARA catalog. So I'm going to give you a brief walkthrough today, but again, if you'd like to learn more, sign up for one of my upcoming small group coaching sessions or a general World War II small group coaching, because we always go into NARA catalog and Fold 3, because both sites contain gold. They're just kind of wonky and challenging to search, but I can give you a lot of tips. Now, an Army morning report was created on a 24-hour period, and it is listed at the company level, basically. Every time something happens to a soldier or an airman in that company, it is going to be recorded on this report. So if they are promoted, demoted, they're prisoners, missing, killed, died of wounds, they've gone AWOL, maybe they've gone on detached service or detached duty, anything like that, all those changes that are basically anything that is not them just being healthy and doing their job is going to show up on that report. These reports contain also their unit at that time and also where that unit is located. So they're great to reconstruct the footsteps of your veteran. Now, they usually also contain a record of events. So what is happening for that unit that day? Did they march 10 miles by foot from this town to this town? Did something else happen? It's usually there in the record of events. Now, that said, every military record, regardless of war, but we're World War II focused right now, had a standard on how much information you had to provide. However, some clerks provided a lot of information. You'll know every whiskey and rum ration that they received, every hot meal, every time they finally got to take a shower and put on fresh clothing, and some other very graphic, disturbing things. Other clerks put no change, or they wrote march 10 miles via motor transport, weather fine, morale good. Not so exciting, right? You just never know. With any military record that you get, you never know because it all depends on who wrote the report, how much extra detail they're going to put in. But these are absolutely vital, whether or not you have a service file, to reconstruct service history. Now, just a little tip, if you're researching World War I, these are on Fold 3 for World War I, 1917 to 1939. And if you're looking for World War I Army muster rolls, those are on Family Search, which is a free website. All right, are you ready to take a look at just a little bit on how to search Army morning reports on NARA catalog? Let's go look. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go to catalog.archives.gov. Okay, this is where we're going to search. Now, I'm going to start with a service number, and I always put it in quotes. You can start with a service number, you can start with a name, you can do first name, middle initial, last name, you can do last name, first name, middle initial, no middle initial, whatever you want. You can search for unit. However, with NARA catalog, you really have to be creative and try everything because you're going to get different results. And a lot of people who attend my coaching sessions have told me, even from day to day, depending on how they search, they get different results. Why is it that way? Nobody can answer that. It's wonky. That is the best word to describe it. So we're going to look for my cousin Frank Winkler. Frank was part of the 29th Division upon his death, 24 June 1944. Now, when I originally did his research back in 2010 through 2013, when I wrote his story for my book, Stories of the Lost, all of these records were on microfilm. Now, if the clerk did not put certain information, you were stuck. You couldn't go backward. So when we did Frank's research, we saw that he came into the 115th Infantry Regiment of the 29th Division on 23 June 1944. The clerk, though, did not put what replacement depot he came from or what other unit or anything. It just says these 5 enlisted men joined and assigned. So I was stuck. I couldn't go backward from there because I didn't have the clue to keep moving backward. Once these records were digitized and put online, it took a little searching, but I was able to then find the replacement depot that Frank was part of and move backward. So if you have done any Army or Army Air Force research prior to, let's say, last year, and you got stuck because the records could not take you any further, then this would be the place to look. Now, also on here, you're going to find full months of reports, so you can download a PDF that will have the full month. So if you don't want to download page by page to document everywhere they were while they were overseas, you can do it via one PDF or maybe a couple PDFs because sometimes they're split. But let's just look for Frank's service number and see what comes up. Now, when the results come up or NARA says, well, I think that your number or your name is within this file, one of the things you can do is scroll through here and look for, in this case, Army Morning Reports, or you can go to the left side of the screen, click Part of Record Group and choose Record Group 64, which is going to take you to just these specific records. Now, there are some general orders and other things mixed in here, but you will find the information. Now, I am using Chrome, which when I pull up the results is going to show on the right side here in chronological order. If you use Firefox, it's going to show it in reverse chronological order. So go to Chrome or Brave and use it that way. Sometimes this little search box that will say the search term was found on which images, and this role that we're looking at right now, this specific section of records has 678. Sometimes there's more than 1,000 transcriptions. Sometimes this handy box does not show up. Okay, so then you have to start looking image by image to try to find the guy that you're looking for or the woman you're looking for. But in this case, for March of 1944, Frank allegedly shows up on 4 different images. Now, the OCR is not always wonderful, so sometimes it's going to think that the number you're looking for is on a specific page when really that's not your guy at all. Military records are not all perfectly clear. So sometimes they're smudged, sometimes they're very light and OCR doesn't pick it up correctly. Sometimes the clerk hit the wrong key on the typewriter and therefore your service number is attached to somebody else on maybe 1 or more reports, depending on how often that error gets repeated. So always check everything. But let's just take a quick look here. And what do we see? And sometimes NARA catalog takes a little while to load. Sometimes it's pretty fast. I think it just depends on how many people are on it that day. Now, this is a roster. And if we want to know what this roster is for, we would have to go back to the beginning of the roster and see what it is. Okay. But this is basically showing us, once it loads, I think this is a list of those who are being attached, I think, to a replacement depot, but let's take a look. And potentially getting ready to go overseas. So Frank would show up in this, okay? If we wanted to download that image, you just go to the little download button on the left side here. Okay. Now, If we're not sure what unit this is part of, because this roster does not tell us that, go to the next image where it looks like there is a morning report, and let's see what it says. So this is Company D of the 1st Battalion, 1st Replacement Regiment, and they are currently at Fort George Meade in Maryland. The date is 17 March 1944, and they're preparing to go overseas. A lot of guys were in George Meade before they shipped out. So we have that information. Okay, so now we have a unit. We can put that in our timeline of service, and we know this is another unit that Frank was part of, right? So you would use these Army morning reports to then, every time he shows up, you'll know what has changed for him. Once he's overseas, if you want to know what is happening, you would just go through the next day and the next day and the next day to see where are they, what does the record of events say? You know, even if he doesn't show up, if you know he's still in that unit, the record of events is going to just give you more details and a little bit more context, some more research clues to help move you forward. All right. Okay. Now, sometimes there will be rosters or general orders that show up tilted. Okay, so they're in a landscape mode. You can download those and then open them up and just flip them to see what they say. Now, this is a roster that I don't think I found before for Frank. So again, you have to keep searching NARA catalog to see what else is going to come up. But this is an embarkation roster in June of 1944. So all of these men with their MOS, their name, their service number, and their rank are being prepared to go at this point from England over to France. And I know this because I've already done the research. So he is embarking on a ship, and I probably have to go look through some of these other rosters to find out what ship did he come across the channel on. But this is giving me more information about the unit and possibly a ship where he went across. And then he's placed into the 115th Infantry Regiment. Okay. Now, you can use these Army morning reports to find out, again, where somebody was, what was going on. There is a trick to finding all the really good information, though. So if you're interested, go down into the comments, take a look at the upcoming General World War II small group coaching, or also the branch specific coaching, and sign up. Or if you want one-on-one coaching, sign up for a 1-hour Research a Veteran coaching private session with me, and we will go through your military branch that you need, the 2-part strategy, those specific records, you'll get the workbooks, whatever, and it's only focused on your specific needs so that you can start the research. If you have questions, please put them in the comments, or my email is also down in the description. You can reach out. I offer free consults for military research, genealogy, and writing or ghostwriting and developmental editing. So if you're interested, let me know. But these reports are absolutely vital, and there's so much more I could tell you about them, but that's all for today. Bye.